please welcome Senator Ted Cruz.
God bless CPAC. So Donald Trump is skipping CPAC. I think somebody told him Megyn Kelly was going to be here. Or even worse, he was told there were conservatives that were going to be here. Or even worse, he was told there were libertarians who were going to be here. Or even worse, they were told there were young people who were going to be here. Now, none of y'all have a degree from Trump University. Listen. Listen. The men and women here are a grassroots army. The men and women here love liberty. And let me tell you, as dire as things are, people are waking up all over this country. And help is on the way. This election is going to be about three things: jobs, liberty, and security. Let's start with jobs. You know, it's easy to talk about making America great again. You can even print that on a baseball cap. But the question is, do you understand the principles that made America great in the first place? The heart of the economy is not Washington, D.C. It's not New York City. The heart of the economy are small businesses all over this country. You want to crush the economy, hammer small businesses like we've done the last 7 years. And you want to unchain the economy, lift the boot of the federal government off the backs of the necks of small businesses. If I am elected president, we will repeal every word of Obamacare. We'll pass common sense health care reform that makes health insurance personal and portable and affordable and keeps government from getting in between us and our doctors. And we will pass a simple flat tax, where every American can fill out our taxes on a postcard. And when we do that, we should abolish the IRS. Now, I understand that a lot of people in this country are angry. I get being angry. I'm angry too. For far too long, politicians in both parties have lied to us. They make promises on the trail, and then they go to Washington, and they don't do what they said. And you know, no issue captures that better than immigration. Listen, immigration is a law enforcement matter. Immigration is a national security matter. But at its heart, immigration is an economic matter. when you allow 12 million people to come to this country illegally, you take away millions of jobs from U.S. citizens, from legal immigrants, and you drive down wages for everybody. Now, in a Republican primary, everyone says they oppose illegal immigration. The question to ask was in 2013, when the battle over the Gang of Eight amnesty bill was being waged, where did you stand? Did you stand as far too many establishment Republicans did with Barack Obama and the Democrats pushing amnesty on millions of Americans? Or did you stand, as I was proud to stand, with millions of Americans saying, no, we will not have amnesty? And you know, I'm told that Donald Trump talks a fair amount about immigration. There's a natural question to ask. During the Gang of Eight battle, where was Donald? Well, sadly, worse than nowhere. Donald was funding the Gang of Eight. He gave over $50,000 to 5 of the 8 members of the Gang of Eight. And last night, Donald on stage promised all of us to be flexible. He said that over and over again, how flexible he was. Well, let me tell you, everyone at CPAC, flexible is code word in Washington, D.C. for they're getting ready to stick it to you. Have you noticed every time they're flexible in Washington, it benefits the giant corporations, it benefits Wall Street, it benefits the special interests, and the working men and women of this country get left in the cold. Here's what we're going to do. If I'm elected, we're repealing Obamacare, we're passing a flat tax, we're abolishing the IRS, we're pulling back the federal regulators, we're stopping amnesty, we're securing the borders. And here's what's going to happen. Millions and millions of high-paying jobs, wages coming up for everyone, young people coming out of school getting 2, 3, 4, 5 job offers. Morning in America. The second critical issue in this election is freedom. You know, for all of us, Justice Scalia's passing just 2 weeks ago underscored the stakes of this election. I was blessed to know Justice Scalia personally for 20 years. I started my career as a law clerk at the court and litigated in front of the court, arguing cases in front of the court for over a decade. Justice Scalia was a lion of the law, and he ferociously protected the Bill of Rights for all of us. His passing underscores that this election is not about one branch of government, it's about 2. We are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court ruling that government can take our religious liberty away and force every one of us to violate our faith on penalty of prison or fine. We are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court ordering 10 Commandments monuments torn down all over this country. We are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court erasing the Second Amendment from the Bill of Rights. We are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court ordering veterans memorials torn down, if they have any religious symbols, torn down all over this country. And we are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court making us subject to the World Court and the United Nations and international law and giving away U.S. sovereignty. Now, you know, in the debate last week, there was a moment of clarity on this issue. Hugh Hewitt asked a question about religious liberty in the Supreme Court. And Donald Trump turned to me and said, "Ted, I've known a lot more politicians in my life than you have. Now, in that, he is surely correct. He has been supporting liberal Democratic politicians for 4 decades. But he said, Ted, when it comes to the Supreme Court, you got to be prepared to compromise. You got to be willing to cut a deal with the Democrats. Let me be very clear to every man and woman here at CPAC. I will not compromise away your religious liberty. And I will not compromise away your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Because if any president does what Donald is promising to do, cut a deal with Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer to agree on Justice Scalia's replacement, then we know that replacement will be a left-wing judicial activist who will strip away our rights. And I give you my solemn commitment that every justice I put on the Supreme Court will be a principled constitutionalist, faithful to the law, who will vigorously protect the Bill of Rights for each and every one of us. The third key issue this election is about is security. For 7 years, America has abandoned our friends and allies and has shown weakness and appeasement to our enemies. The world is much more dangerous because of it. Once again, in the debate last week, there was a moment of clarity in this choice. Donald Trump told us he will be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians. Now, let me be very clear. As president, I have no intention of being neutral. America will stand unapologetically with the nation of Israel. And if you cannot tell the difference between terrorists who walk into shopping malls with dynamite strapped around their chest to blow up women and children and the soldiers protecting innocents, if you buy into the media and the left wing's narrative of moral equivalency, then that draws into question the judgment any individual would have as commander-in-chief. Over the last 7 years, we've seen the United States military weakened. We've seen our readiness degraded. We've seen morale plummet. Now, America's seen this happen before. We've seen a left-wing Democratic president weaken the military as Jimmy Carter did, and in 1981, Ronald Reagan came into the White House. Now, what did Reagan do? He cut taxes, he passed regulatory reform, the economy took off, millions of small businesses grew, trillions of dollars of government revenue. He used that revenue to rebuild the military, and we bankrupted the Soviet Union and won the Cold War. I intend to do the exact same thing with radical Islamic terrorism. We are going to unleash incredible economic growth and rebuild the military so it remains the world's mightiest fighting force. No longer will the military be governed by political correctness. No longer will it be a top priority of the Pentagon to provide gluten-free MREs. Instead, we will have a commander-in-chief who says to the world, we will defeat radical Islamic terrorism. We'll have a president willing to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. And one of the most disgraceful things we've seen over the last 7 years is sending our fighting men and women into combat with rules of engagement that tie their arms behind their back and make it impossible for them to win, to defeat the enemy, and to protect themselves. That is wrong, it is immoral, and in January 2017, it will end. America has always been reluctant to use military force. We are slow to anger. But if and when military force is required, we should use overwhelming force, kill the enemy, and then get the heck out. And it is the men and women gathered here, the men and women of CPAC, it is the young people, it is the lovers of liberty, it is the lovers of the Constitution that will lead that fight. It took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan. And I am convinced the most long-lasting legacy of Barack Obama is going to be a new generation of leaders in the Republican Party who stand and fight for liberty, who stand and fight for the Constitution, and who stand and fight for the Judeo-Christian values that built this great nation. Thank you, and God bless you.